Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the teaser trailer for The Marvels. So this movie is very much a sequel to WandaVision, Captain Marvel, and Ms. Marvel, and I think it's going to reintroduce cosmic stories into the MCU. And there are a lot of important connections and hints to Kang the Conqueror and the multiverse saga in this trailer. Now, I thought it was smart that the trailer didn't really reveal the villains of the movie, instead introducing us to this idea that the three leads are swapping places with one another, which I'm going to talk about in just a bit. We start on a space station of Earth called Saber. Now, this station is operated by S.W.O.R.D. In the comics, S.W.O.R.D. is kind of like the flip side of S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. protects the Earth from domestic threats, whereas S.W.O.R.D. goes out into space to neutralize those threats before they happen. But in the MCU, that seems to be a bit different. S.H.I.E.L.D. was more concerned with stopping terrestrial threats on Earth, while S.W.O.R.D. is more involved with protecting Earth from extraterrestrial threats. After the events of Captain Marvel, the agency was formed in secret, in part by Rambeau, and I'm betting that their funding was supercharged after the Battle of New York. And following the events of Captain America the Winter Soldier, when S.H.I.E.L.D. was fully compromised, Nic Fury likely transferred over to S.W.O.R.D., helping to run the agency from space, like we saw in Far From Home. In the MCU, S.W.O.R.D. stands for Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division. They were the baddies in wandaVision, reassembling Vision against his will and then trying to murder Wanda's children.
No, stand down!
Now, the ships flying into the station look a bit like Kree imperial cruisers, the same ones the Skrulls were hiding in Captain Marvel. Both the shape and the rear lights look the same. This could be an attack on the station, but more than likely, I think that S.W.O.R.D. has appropriated some Kree technology to make their own ships. And just over here, we see a honeycomb rift opening. So, whenever characters in the MCU travel through space, these rifts open in space-time. And the hexagonal shape is maybe because it's connected to the fundamental structure of the universe, or to Wanda's reality-altering powers, or maybe, you never know, might be connected to Mephisto.
Not the beast! Ah!
And then we see Nic Fury on the station. Now, this movie does take place after the show's Secret Invasion, but this is not necessarily a spoiler that Fury lives. This could always be Talos or another Skrull disguising himself as Fury like he did in Far From Home. And now I've got something very serious to talk to you about. So,
hey, why are you eating cereal in the middle of making such a serious point?
Because, Doug, I am tired of life being so serious. I want to eat fun, sweet cereals in the middle of the day, like when I did when I was a kid.
Well, you're a grown-up now, so you shouldn't be eating junk food.
But this isn't junk food. This is Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon tastes like all the cereals from my childhood, but it has no gluten, soy, and there are 0 grams of sugar. But most importantly, they taste so good. You can build your very own variety box from cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, and maple waffle flavors, plus other awesome flavors, including honey nut, blueberry, muffin, cinnamon roll, and birthday cake.
Hey, happy birthday!
Thanks, buddy. High five. Now me, I kind of like their peanut butter flavor the best, but you should try out their variety pack and find your own favorite. Look, I'm not kidding when I say how high quality this is. Look, 0 grams of sugar, 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, plus only 140 calories, and it's really high in protein. But mostly, guys, it's just fun. I like to wake up early. I want to watch some OG X-Men and have a bowl of Magic Spoon. I mean, we may be grown-ups, but live the grown-up life that you always wanted to live, like back when you were a kid. Eat fun cereals and watch cartoons. Like, I'm not going to go back to regular cereal, and Magic Spoon is so confident in their product that it's backed by their 100% happiness guarantee. So look, if it's not for you, they'll refund your money and you can part ways as friends. So thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video. Click the link below and use the code ScreenCrush to get $5 off your variety pack, or go to magicspoon.com/ScreenCrush today. Back to the Easter eggs. The code at the bottom of the screen is the same navigation code we saw for Earth in Captain Marvel for the Terran homeworld. Monica's spacewalk suit is white and black, very similar to her superhero costumes. We see this throughout the trailer, with the suits of S.W.O.R.D. agents being the same contrasting black and white design. It's likely that the full suit she's wearing later in the trailer was modeled after these suits, but more on that in just a second. So a lot of you will remember Monica Rambeau from WandaVision and maybe from Captain Marvel, but you might be fuzzy on her backstory because it's been so many years since we've last seen her. So in the comics, Monica was actually a key member of the Avengers for a long time. She originally was a naval security officer near her hometown of New Orleans and was on a mission to recover this device that drained energy. When she sabotaged it, by punching it with her bare fist, mind you, the machine's mechanism reversed, instead imbuing Monica with all this energy. This gave her the ability to transform into any form of energy or light that she desired. She got a costume from a Mardi Gras warehouse and began calling herself Captain Marvel.
Why'd she call herself that?
Well, this was shortly after Marvel Comics' original Captain Marvel, Mar-Vell, died of cancer, and Marvel had to maintain copyright of the name.
Ah, so just like how there must always be a Stark in Winterfell, there must always be a Captain Marvel at Marvel.
Exactly. So, over the years, Carol Danvers, the former Ms. Marvel, became Captain Marvel, and Monica took on the names Photon and Spectrum. She joined the Avengers Avengers shortly after getting her powers and eventually became leader of the team. Now, in the MCU, her origin has been altered to make her closer to Carol Danvers and to streamline her story with the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the 1980s, her mother Maria Rambeau was a test pilot with Carol Danvers around the time that Carol had an accident with the Tesseract engine that gave her the abilities of Captain Marvel. Then, an intergalactic space empire called the Kree took advantage of Carol, using her to commit genocide against a race of shape-shifting aliens called the Skrulls. When this war spilled into Earth in the early 1990s, Carol reunited with Maria and met her daughter, Monica. Monica actually chose the colors for Carol's Captain Marvel outfit.
How do I look? Fresh.
Now, during this time, Monica also met a young Skrull named Gaia, who Emilia Clarke is playing in Secret Invasion. Over the years, Maria Rambeau helped to found an agency called SWORD, which deals primarily with extraterrestrial threats. And Monica Rambeau became an agent of SWORD, and at some point before Infinity War, Maria got cancer, and Monica was blip. When she returned, her mother had already died. Monica was then reinstated into SWORD and pulled into a reality-altering hex that Wanda created in WandaVision, and this hex forced her to act like a sitcom character.
Oh no, Geraldine. He didn't fire you.
Oh, sugar. He hired me!
Wanda expelled her from the hex, and Monica re-entered, thinking she could reason with Wanda over their shared grief. Entering the hex twice gave her energy power similar to what we see in the comics. But Monica's true power was empathizing with the terrorists.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
It wouldn't change how they see me.
In the WandaVision post-credits scene, she met a Skrull who told her
he'd like to meet with you.
Where?
So now she's a SWORD agent working on a space station and investigating this honeycomb rift in space.
Hey, why is she using a suit instead of her powers?
Well, maybe, unlike in the comics, her powers don't allow her to travel through space. Or maybe she doesn't have full control of them yet. It could also mean that she could travel through space with her powers, but she needed the radio on the suit to report back to Fury. And what is it with this woman and recklessly touching weird energy? And then she swaps places with Ms. Marvel herself, Kamala Khan. Now, some of you may have skipped the show Ms. Marvel. If you did, you're missing out. It really kind of dips in the middle when the budget restraints, COVID restrictions, and a rookie lead give us moments like this.
It's not gonna work. It's just gonna destroy everything. Please help me close it.
But overall, it was an incredibly inventive show that gave us one of our best looks at the ground level MCU. In the comics, Kamala Khan was an Inhuman who was exposed to Terrigen mist that gave her the power to shapeshift. A lot of her early books are spent trying to balance the life of a Pakistani teenager with a superhero career. And the show was mostly faithful to that. She is a massive Avengers superfan and a huge Carol Danvers stan. Instead of being an Inhuman, her powers are activated when she puts on her great-grandma's bangle.
Wait, what's her bangle like? Walk like an Egyptian.
No. Her great-grandmother was a Jinn, a being from another reality called the Light Dimension. Back in the 1940s, the Jinn found the bangle in a temple of the Ten Rings, and they wanted to use it to return to their homeworld, even though doing so would, kill everybody on Earth, they think. So Kamala's great-grand didn't want to kill everybody on Earth, so she took the bangle and settled down with the human man and was eventually killed by the other Jinn.
I'll find it if it's the last thing I do.
So, in the present day, Kamala is really digging wearing the bangle and becoming a hero when she meets the Jinn and the Jinn's hot grandson, Kamran, who also has light powers. Long story short, Kamala uses the bangle to travel back to the partition of India and Pakistan, where she saves her grandmother's life, leading to a really cool closed-loop time travel theory, and then the Jinn decide to peacefully sacrifice themselves to save the world, I think. The ending of that storyline was like really rushed and pretty bad. But the core conflict of the series was against my favorite villains, Damage Control. This is the same government agency that tormented Spider-Man in No Way Home.
Department of Damage Control. We have a warrant for the arrest of Peter Parker.
So Kamala keeps Kamran's powers from going out of control, the people save her and Kamran from damage control, and then her mother creates a new superhero identity for her. Also, she's a mutant.
Kamala, there's something different in your genes, like a mutation.
The series ends with Kamala's bangle making her swap places with Carol Danvers. The bangle, like the Ten Rings, are one of the enduring mysteries of the multiverse saga. We have theorized for a while that Kang was behind the creation of these objects, and since the bangle can open rifts in reality and travel through time, it seems very closely tied to the multiverse saga, as we'll see later in the trailer. So notice here in this wide shot that Fury still has Carol's pager on his desk. This is what he can use to call her back to Earth.
For emergencies only, okay?
And I just love how pumped Kamala Khan is about this whole thing. Totally unfazed.
Hey, hi! Is this an Avengers test?
So Kamala is an Avengers superfan who first displayed her powers at Avengers Con. So of course she's excited about meeting Nic Fury, who assembled the team to begin with. Also, it's kind of weird that everybody knows the name and face of this super spy, right?
Don't you think that's weird? Definitely weird.
So then we find out that the powers of Carol, Monica, and Ms. Marvel are entangled.
Entangled? Well, that sounds familiar.
Well, that's because the minds of Scott and Janet became quantum entangled in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
We think when you were down there, you may have entangled with her.
Now, later in the trailer, we do see the villain wearing, look at that, a bangle like Ms. Marvel's. I think this is tied into how these three became entangled with one another, and I'm going to explain how just a little bit later in the video. So, then we see that Monica has swapped places with Carol Danvers. It makes total sense that Carol would be squaring up against the Kree. They brainwashed her and manipulated her for years into doing their bidding, and they're the largest empire in space. So they recently fought a 100-year war with Xandar, but signed a peace treaty just before the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
We signed your peace treaty, Nova Prime. What more do you want?
Some Kree, like Ronan the Accuser, didn't like seeing their empire capitulate, so Ronan went rogue, killing innocents.
He is slaughtering children. Families.
Now, the Kree are still one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, so Carol would be dedicated to fighting their tyranny. These troops have the head fins that we saw the Kree wear in the comics, and some of them are blue-skinned, just like some of the Kree are. During this fight, Monica crackles with blue and yellow energy. This is because she can transform her body into the full spectrum of light and energy, so she could become regular light, magnetic waves, infrared, you get the idea.
Yes, science!
And then we go to Carol and Kamala Khan's room looking like she was just kidnapped by her stalker. Now, this is the same scene that appeared in the post-credits of Ms. Marvel's finale, and we did point out a lot of the Easter eggs in that breakdown video, but here's a few more. Here is Captain Marvel original comics art on the wall as posters. For instance, this one is from Captain Marvel #7, drawn by Jamie McKelvey. An Iron Man helmet made from cardboard is on her desk. Maybe this is because Kamala creates cosplay costumes, and this is her working on a suit for her buddy Bruno. There's also a drawing that's a Funko Pop of Carol, but it looks more like her design as the character Binary from the comics. Here in the wall, there's a poster for the New Jersey Avengers Con, the event where she first activated her powers. Now, there are several sloths on the wall, like this one with wings. Sloths are Kamala's favorite animal, and her nickname is even
Sloth baby.
Sloth baby. Everyone, call her Sloth Baby.
She drew herself as Captain Marvel here, maybe as a design for the cosplay she wore in the first episode of her show. But then there's this creepy, Tumblr-esque drawing of her and Carol as best friends. And then notice this sign that says higher, further, faster. Carol and Maria's motto as test pilots and Captain Marvel.
Higher, further, faster, baby.
She also has a poster that says Kamala Khan and Carol save the world. And really, like, Carol has to feel like Paul Sheldon waking up with Annie Wilkes staring right at him at the foot of a bed. Kamala also seems to be upping her skills as a gamer girl, judging by her Eat, Sleep, Raid, Repeat poster and her kitty headset here. And then the Marvel Studios logo comes in, inverted before the entangled letters switch places, crackling with blue energy, just like the energy when the women switch places in this trailer. So I really like this concept for a sequel. Usually in superhero sequels, heroes will lose their powers, like Superman, Spider-Man, or Logan. Or they're placed in a situation where their powers become useless, like Tony dying from palladium poisoning, or Steve Rogers facing a problem that he just can't punch his way out of. This movie is a little similar to Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, when Johnny manifests the powers of the entire team. So what's happening in this movie is every time one of the three of them uses their powers to a certain extent, it makes them involuntarily swap places with one of the other three. This of course limits how much they can use their abilities. So I like that this is forcing these three unlikely people to work together. It's also going to connect to the multiverse saga in a very clever way. And this is also good because look, Carol is like extremely powerful, taking down Thanos' ship like it was Glass Joe in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! When a character is that powerful, you have to find a way to limit their abilities.
We need to be put in check.
And this is a way more creative solution than just her losing her powers.
I'm not again!
Then we see the view over Jersey City in the hometown of Kamala Khan. Now, in the comics, she often looked over the Hudson River to Manhattan and dreamed of living the superhero life in the big city across the river. And her dad answers the door in her home because remember, Kamala Khan is only 16 years old. She goes to public school and can't even drive a car. The entire living room has been wrecked. Now, a moment later in the trailer, we see Monica fighting a Kree agent in the kitchen. Notice the person she's fighting has one of the same electro staffs as the person that she was fighting on the moon. She lets the staff phase through her body just like she did the bullets in WandaVision. Now check out this look of surprise on her face and the way she instinctively held her arms in front of her face earlier in the trailer. That tells me that she does not have full command of her powers, and maybe she's even afraid to use them. So I think this soldier is probably the same guy we see gagged on the couch right here. All of this for a plot device is very clever because it gives Kamala's parents a reason to let her go off into space. Even though they're okay with her being a superhero, they likely would not agree with her going out to explore space, because you never know, space might be filled with boys.
There's so many strange people roaming around
All
at night.
strange boys. Thinking God knows what and drinking God knows what.
But this entanglement story means that Kamala cannot live a normal life. She cannot stay at home. It means that superheroes and aliens are going to constantly pop into her parents' house.
My house? Yes, your house.
Man, not my house!
so they have to let her go off and have an adventure. Kamala is wearing a Captain Marvel t-shirt and holding a data pad with her information on it. Fury likely handed this to her to show how her powers were aligned with Monica and Carol's, and maybe he even figured out something about her abilities that Kamala herself doesn't realize. Then on another planet, we see Monica being held up by some Kree. Notice she's wearing the same sword leather jacket that she wears in Kamala's living room. And then Kamala is overjoyed to audition her abilities for Nic Fury.
And you, I could totally show you.
Accidentally swapping places with Carol Danvers and wrecking her parents' dining table. Now notice when she switches with Carol, Carol is actually in mid-flight, probably because she was flying as quick as she could to Earth so they could sort out whatever this problem is. Also, check out Goose. Now remember, Goose looks like a cat, but is actually a Flerkin. Flerkins have a pocket dimension inside of their stomachs, and this is how they're able to eat human beings who are so much bigger than them. At the end of Captain Marvel, Goose stayed with Fury on Earth, and in the post-credit scene coughed up the Tesseract so S.H.I.E.L.D. would have it years later. Notice here,
Wherever you were.
Monica seems annoyed with Carol. Now you would think she'd be happy to see her Auntie Carol, you know, her mom's best friend. But in WandaVision, there was a moment where she kind of stiffed up at the mention of Captain Marvel.
Well, I'd argue that Captain Marvel came close.
I think this is because when her mom was dying of cancer, Carol didn't visit or bring any medicine from space to save Maria's life.
I'll bring a Bazorian elixir when I come back.
So there's a lot of resentment here. And then we see where Kamala appears on a Kree ship in costume for some reason with another Flerkin. She's fighting with a Kree soldier when two or more round the corner, and notice the ooh not good face on this guy right before the Flerkin eats him. Now, they cut it to look like this is when the two of them exchange places, but what I think is actually happening here is that likely Kamala switched places with Carol while she was flying over Jersey City, and that is why Kamala is falling later in the trailer, because she switched places with Carol mid-flight. So then Carol is flying a ship through a planet's rings as the three heroes are finally together and wearing Earth clothes. Carol is wearing a tie-dyed sweatshirt, and Monica is wearing Carol's 9-inch nail shirt from the first movie. So I'm guessing these are clothes that Carol kept on this ship, though I don't know why they would be out of their uniforms. So then they go to this planet that looks like it's on the Riviera.
Is this Space Grease from the Bad Batch?
No, but it could be Deneb 7, a pleasure planet resort that Star Fox frequents in the comics. This could also be a way to tie this movie into the Eternals post-credit scene, which would be really good. I mean, they cast Harry Styles to be in a sequel that probably won't get made, so I mean, they gotta do something with him, right? We see Monica in front of a Space Grease building wearing her full-on Photon suit, very comic accurate. Now, Carol's suit is actually modeled after the Kree uniform that she wore when she was basically their captive. But young Monica chose a new color scheme for her.
How do I look?
Fresh.
Monica's suit also looks like it belonged to the Kree, but this time, Carol might have changed it to look like a sword uniform.
That's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
And then we see Kamala in what looks like the Sword Saber Station using her powers to create energy discs that she can jump on like she did in her show. This looks like a Kree soldier firing at her, while maybe Nic Fury here backs off to get out of the way. So if this is a Kree, then maybe those were Kree ships attacking the station at the start of the trailer. That would explain the part of the trailer when Fury yells "shields up" as sword henchmen scramble behind him.
Hey, I thought only bad guys were henchmen.
I don't know, like a bunch of dudes on a secret base all wearing an identical speed suit? I'd call that henchmen.
Your mom is a henchman.
And by the way, guys, if you're a fan of what we do here on the channel, check out our merch store with a link in the description. We have our Not the Bees tee, Original Trilogy tee, Somehow Palpatine Returned, and our Doug Foundling shirt. Shopping our merch store really helps out our channel, and we very much appreciate your support. Now, I think the Kree are going to be hunting Kamala for reasons that I'm going to get into in just a bit. And then we see some kind of traditional dance in Space Grease that looks very similar to a Bollywood dance number. Ms. Marvel had a whole Bollywood-style dance sequence in the wedding episode, and it was great. Carol is hiding in native garb, but wearing the sweatshirt from the ship. The sweatshirt also looks very 90s, and I'm betting that somewhere on there it's got a giant Guess logo written on it. The text on screen says, "Teaming up changes everything," then switches to "Teaming up changes everyone," showing that not only will they be swapping places physically, but this physical change will also instigate character change. I don't think that everyone is going to end the movie right back where they started. Kamala is going to be in the big time, going off into space, having adventures. Monica will have control of her powers, and Carol will maybe learn that she has to keep a better eye on Earth. And then we get a few action shots, like Monica catching Kamala over Jersey City. This is probably after Kamala accidentally switched places with Carol. Maybe this is when Monica first learns that she can use her powers to fly. Or maybe the Kree stole Kamala away. She jumps from their ship, and Monica accidentally swaps places with Carol, again, teaching her how to use her powers to fly. And then we see Park Seo-joon commanding his forces. Now, they haven't revealed who he's playing yet. A major theory going around is that Park Seo-joon could be playing Prince Yan of planet Aldana. That's the leader of a musical planet where everybody apparently has to sing to communicate. He was first introduced in 2013's Captain Marvel. And because we see so many people dancing in this sequence, it is likely this could be Planet Aldana. Maybe we'll even get our second MCU musical number. I could do this all. We see an army of Flerkin kittens on the station, and these might actually be Goose's kittens being called into action to defend the station from attack. I'm gonna love this movie. And then we finally see the villain, Zawi Ashton, who has been rumored to be playing Dar Ben. Now, this is an obscure comics character who is a Kree rebel who wanted to overthrow the Empire and make it more extreme. To the extreme! She's very similar to Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, Ronan was one of the accusers. They were basically the executioners who did the Kree's dirty work throughout the galaxy. She's holding an accuser hammer in this trailer, and we see an accuser with her here. She may even be some relation to Ronan, who appeared in the first movie. The hammer she's holding looks exactly like Ronan's Cosmorod that once contained the Power Stone. Now, that particular hammer was destroyed, but then again, so was Thor's hammer and Anakin's lightsaber, and they both patched up just fine. We see her fighting everyone, and they're all suited up. Carol and Kamala have new costumes on. Maybe they got them from those incredibly fashionable aliens in Space Grease. I should also mention that in the comics, the original Captain Marvel used to swap places with a guy named Rick Jones. Marvel was always trapped in the negative zone, and then Rick Jones would cross his negabands together, and the two of them would swap places. Looks like they're doing something very similar here. Now notice that Dar Ben is wearing a bangle just like Kamala's. This is huge. In a Ms. Marvel flashback, we saw the Djinn recover the bangle from a blue arm, likely the arm of a Kree, and they even said,
"You heard what that man from the temple said.
He said we would need two.
And now we know what happened to the second bangle. Now this is still likely connected to the 10 rings in some way, and I do think that the rings activated a beacon that called out to Kang at the end of Shang-Chi. The 10 Rings Temple in Ms. Marvel was destroyed, and I think that it was an artifact left over from a time-traveling variant of Kang the Conqueror. Now think about how this perfectly connects these three characters to the Quantum Realm, Kang, and the Multiverse Saga. Carol's powers are taken from the Space Stone. In addition to giving her immense energy, they also allow her to warp through space. She's like a one-woman Tesseract. Kamala's bangle allows her to pass through time, and Monica's powers are taken from Wanda's abilities. Now, Wanda's powers were activated or at least augmented by the Mind Stone, and that stone also gave her brother Pietro the abilities of the Space Stone. Notice that when he moves through space quickly, he leaves behind these Tesseract-like streaks, though Wanda's powers seem to be more based in the Reality Stone. But since all of the Infinity Stones were connected, it makes sense that they could transfer some properties from one to the other. So let's add all this together. Carol's abilities are tied to space. Kamala's abilities are tied to time. The ability to travel through space and time is a way to time travel or to pass through different worlds in the multiverse, like the TVA agents do in Loki. And Monica is likely a super battery powered by Wanda's energy, much like how Sword used Wanda's energy to power White Vision. So I think these three women together could potentially travel to other universes without using the Quantum Realm or Tony's time-space GPS. Now the accusers want Kamala's bangle because with both bangles, they would be able to pass into other realities, just as the Djinn needed both bangles to go back to the light dimension. It is possible that the Kree see the multiverse as just one more way to spread their empire, or a way to find some weapon to defeat their enemies. They wouldn't realize that entering the multiverse would backfire whenever Kang notices them. Carol hits Dar Ben with her own hammer as we smash cut to Carol's ship from earlier.
We're a team.
Oh, no, we're not a team.
We're not a team.
Monica is quick to say no because, again, she does not like Carol. And there's another Easter egg we didn't mention earlier. Maximilian Marvel on Twitter pointed out that the Sword Station looks just like their peak station from the comics. Also, I gotta shout out the brilliant music choice for this trailer. Now that is the Beastie Boys Intergalactic.
Or because they're in space.
Sure, but it's also because the first lyric is... And when Captain Marvel came out, all the trolls told Brie Larson to smile more, which coincidentally was touched on in this deleted scene.
How about a smile from me, huh?
Well guys, that's all the Easter eggs we found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.